Stop talk. Maybe I should plug in the microphone. Then maybe I can stop talking to myself. Cool. Anyway, just to reiterate, been 1 week since streaming. Back at it now. Should have worked out on Monday, but I felt lazy. It is what it is. It was Labor Day on Monday, so all of Australia had that day off, or most of Australians had that day off. Should have worked out that morning, but I had a bit of a long weekend, so a bit tired, I guess. Back at it. Got to keep at it. If you don't use it, you lose it. Simple as that. Doesn't matter how fit you get. Don't maintain it, it goes away. It's gonna be very simple. I might do my reps just a little bit slower today because I sort of want to work on more fast twitch muscle fibers and my tendons. The slower you do that, the more you can concentrate a bit more on it. It does a bit of everything else, but the focus is all more on my fast twitch, supposedly, from what I've been reading and whatnot, but we'll see. I want to do my push-ups, but this little guy's there. Maybe I'll just do lunges, I guess. Get started. Anyway, hope everyone's been well. Start back easy. As usual, I like to play my stuff in the background. Any questions or anything, let me know. Oh, that's right, I gotta check if any of my other stuff got DMCA because I was playing music and listening at the same time. Let's have a look. Let's see. Yes. DMCA. This one. A lot of my videos have been not like I don't care at all, honestly, but very random. The AI tries to figure out. Oh no, you used content that you should not be using. Here we go. Block 26th of September. Let's see why. So it's Joe Rogan stuff that tends to get blocked. Really strange. I just trim out the segment. I'll try to trim out the segments about something. Okay, so maybe I'll just stop listening to Spotify, depending on what I listen to. Sort of blocks certain things. Let me try the music thing at the same time again. And we'll get started. Already wasted enough time. I'll do some gaming after this. We'll see. Music. Let's see. I just want my music. Let's see. What do we like? Listening to that new Edge Runner from Cyberpunk track. I like it. I'd say I don't like it, but I'll start off with that, I guess.
Welcome back. Make sure you hit that like button, otherwise we'll punch you in the throat. Let's just jump into it. Hurricane Ian is officially attacking America right as I was recording. Right now, the eye made landfall with mainland Florida. And the footage coming out of the area is terrifying, with Fort Myers in particular getting battered by this storm. We've seen intense winds, as well as a multi-foot storm surge that's flooding areas in the city, only getting a small break as the eye of the storm is moving over the city. And now Category 5 hurricane is expected to make its way up to Orlando tonight with the National Weather Service in Tampa continuing to issue warnings to the people there. Like we talked about, a lot of southern and central Florida is Tampa hasn't been hit by a major one in a long time. Most people sending well wishes to the Buck Brother parents out there. Thank you. One set of hunkering down the wall or out of there. And hopefully everyone there can be safe. The damage is so much. Like the Buck Brother community, damage is expected requesting the federal government waive the Jones Act, which, if you don't know, kind of a wild thing. The Jones Act heavily limits the funds that can go to Puerto Rico, right? It requires that all
Music's a bit too loud.
have to be sent on a U.S.-built ship that is crewed and owned by U.S. citizens flying a U.S. flag. While waiving the Jones Act isn't uncommon after major storms, and hopefully this will change, President Joe Biden...
Listen to Philip DeFranco for news in case anyone's interested.
But hopefully he does, because literally instant relief is sitting off the coast. As I record this for you, there is a British petroleum ship with 300,000 barrels of diesel awaiting entry. But even with waiving it, there's a question of why does it still exist, right? The Jones Act is very controversial. It's one of the most egregious remnants of America's most blatant imperialist past. I mean, it forces a territory to only get goods from the mother country, which is something that colonies around the world have complained about throughout history. I mean, ironically, or you could say hypocritically, it was one of the driving factors in the American Revolution. But apparently we were like, death to the king, long live the king. But for everyday Puerto Ricans, the Jones Act causes more down-to-earth issues, right? Not only does it make things like getting fuel to the island more expensive, but it also causes...
Just realized my heart rate monitor's not on.
The island after storms like Fiona, very expensive, leading to figures like the Archbishop of San Juan and Senator Marco Rubio to also call for the Jones Act to be waived. And the thinking around this shouldn't just be short-term, right? How can we solve the long-term issues that the island faces? And the desires there, local officials on both sides of the aisle have long wanted it repealed, claiming that it permanently stifles the economy. An economy that more and more mainland Americans are taking advantage of. Or because while it's always there, this hurricane has also refueled anger over wealthy mainland Americans going to the island and building multi-million-dollar homes while saying very little about the disaster. Notable among these being Logan Paul, who's reportedly been a resident for nearly a year now after building a $13 million home there. Which is why we've seen so many locals criticizing him, other critics saying, hey, Logan Paul, don't you live in Puerto Rico? Sucks how you call it home and the natives, your neighbors are suffering. As well as Logan Paul and all you millionaires, where the fuck are you at now? What are you doing for Puerto Rico to help? Want to keep buying property? All of yous are full of shit. Well, this is something that we've talked about in the past. The person that has blown this up the most recently is Bad Bunny. He, if you didn't see, recently turned his El Apagón music video into a documentary about the struggles Puerto Rico faces and heavily focused on millionaires like Logan Paul who come to avoid many taxes.
En Puerto Rico hay una ley que le permite a los extranjeros no pagar ciertos impuestos cuando se mudan aquí. Se llama la Ley 22, que ahora es parte de la Ley 60. Y gracias a esta ley, cuando una persona se muda a Puerto Rico, no paga nada de impuestos por las ganancias de sus inversiones en cosas como acciones, criptomonedas y bienes raíces.
I'm moving to Puerto Rico. It also touches on a lot of the other issues that the island faces, like gringos buying cheaper properties that locals would use for housing and making them rentals for tourists. And after today's show, I'll link to it down below. I cannot recommend you check it out enough. And also to that end, I'm going to
Frank, how you going?
Banks down below where you can send donations.
How are things back in the land of the free?
But I mean, even all the money in the world, it's not going to fix the issues that the Jones Act causes. And then internet
Hope your
weirdos
flight and
are
everything
thirsting
was
over
smooth
Jeffrey
sailing.
Dahmer right now, and I feel like we should talk about it because we've been talking about
5
true crime the
push-ups.
last 2 weeks. And now with the new Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story series on Netflix, the conversation has really taken center stage. There's a show by Ryan Murphy. It stars Evan Peters, and it just broke Netflix's record, becoming the most watched first week for a new series ever. But despite this massive success, it's also facing tons of criticism.
Cheers for the 5 push-ups, Frank.
Hate of The Guardian writing
Yeah,
that
Cheddar.
unwatchably queasy and saying that
Ah,
both
you never got to
episodes
meet
are, quote,
Cheddar or
demonstrating
Whiskey.
every worst tendency that the true crime drama genre has to offer. We've also seen the families of the victims speaking out, especially
Next
the family
time.
of Errol
You'll see him plenty on my
Lindsay,
stream, I
because
guess.
I'm not telling anyone what to watch. I know true crime media is huge right now, but if you're actually curious about the victims, my family is pissed about the show. It's re-traumatizing over and over again, and for what? How many movies, shows, documentaries do we need? Eric also bringing up the intended narrative this show and a lot of others use, saying the story is for and about the victims and the families, but saying just because they say this doesn't mean that's how it's perceived. Explain it. When they say they're doing this with respect for the victims or honoring the dignity of the families, no one contacts them. My cousins wake up every few months at this point with a bunch of calls and messages.
that.
There's another Dahmer show. Cool. Errol's sister Rita also writing an essay in Insider where she echoed the claim that Netflix gave her no heads up, didn't ask her any questions about this or her brother.
Straight back to
Saying
work, or
that
you got a few
watching it
days off?
felt like reliving it all over again. It brought back all the emotions I was
It was
feeling
lovely having you here, by the
sad
way.
for just making money off this tragedy. That's just greed. And that's just one
Can't wait
aspect.
until it
There's
becomes a
also kind of
permanent thing.
controversy and really general discuss about how people have received this show. Because right now you have people making fan edits that seemingly romanticize Dahmer. Even though they show Evan Peters as Dahmer is still a murderer in his actions that are ultimately being portrayed. You've got people minimizing what he did, trying to say that there was like this big romantic relationship. It was a love story. That Dahmer is hot. They're thirsting over his mugshot. Which is why you also have people on social media trying to counter all of this, tweeting things like, Jeffrey Dahmer molested and murdered people, mostly black men and boys. So to see people making edits and thirst traps of him is a little off-putting. There was even a report report yesterday that there were discussions in Milwaukee about finding a way to honor the victims, but the mayor and others concerned that if they actually made a physical memorial, it might just end up being this weird mecca for creepy Dahmer fans. So with no shortage of
fair enough, man.
here and this being a continuing
It's a big,
discussion,
it's a lot of travel, so
and then they're threatening people with felonies.
I wouldn't
for
know the
talking
feeling
about
yet of crossing that many
abortion or even
time zones,
Yes,
but I can
really,
imagine,
it's
yeah.
insane, right? So we have to go
Got a
to
bit of time to
Potato
catch
State,
up on.
Idaho, where the University of Idaho.
Whiskey,
released a
my
state
prediction
perspective
would have been,
last week, informing them of new university policies that restrict the discussion.
You would have
of
been a bit
abortion,
hesitant,
even counsels faculty against
depending on
providing
how you
contraceptive
approach him.
condoms, and saying any violation.
If you're
quickly
fearless,
faculty to be
you'll be
fired,
good.
barred from
But if you
working
show
for
any
the state,
hesitations,
even charged with a
you'll bite your ankle off.
felony. These new mandates even limiting access to emergency contraception like Plan B on
I
campus
believe you would have handled it
only
well.
available in cases of rape. Regarding the discussion of abortion, the university warned them academic freedom is not a defense to violation of law. Right? So why is the university doing this? Well, all these rules stem from the state legislation passed last year titled No Public Funds for Abortion Act. With that saying that absolutely no funds provided by the state shall be used in any way to perform, promote, or counsel in favor of abortions. And in another Idaho code, it's a felony for anyone without a medical license to advertise or provide notice of quote any
whiskey's
medicine
getting old these days, so I think he prefers more company than trying to back him away.
Or for the prevention of conception. And according to the university statement to faculty, the laws were unclear and untested in court. So the school has decided to take a conservative approach and not provide standard birth control. Now, to remove any confusion for those involved, it's important to note that the university can still provide condoms for STD prevention, just not for contraception. Right, so you just gotta say, I want the condom so I don't get gonorrhea, not because I don't want baby genes, but also for all of us that live outside of Idaho. This is still an important story to look at, because if there's one thing you take away from this, is that this movement against abortion isn't just producing laws that limit rights to the procedure, but also it's making safe and responsible birth control less accessible for young people, giving more weight to the fear that anti-abortion laws will turn to anti-birth control laws. And now you literally have educational institutions worried that they're going to criminally punish
Pomeranian.
faculty just for providing.
I don't know how people get so scared. Look, I get it. I used to be afraid of dogs, so fair enough. I have to give people that. But it's a Pomeranian. Literally, baby shark, tiny tit. At worst, yeah, it draws like a scratch of blood.
Based on a historic Scottish custom, the landowners are referred to as lords and ladies in English. It's basically a fun gift to give to anyone, but especially those hard to shop for people in your life. The title packs give you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on the private estate of Scotland and an official certificate with the press. And I especially like that they are huge supporters of global reforestation, working with charities like One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. So with each order, it means that 1 tree gets planted. And in fact,
I think you left at the right time, Frank. It's like full raining and pouring here now.
In different parts of Scotland, and planted over 2 million trees globally with Trees for the Future alone. So why not make them call you Lord or Lady? It makes an amazing last-minute gift. And Established Titles is running a massive sale. Plus, when you go to establishedtitles.com/DeFranco and you use code DeFranco, you get an additional 10% off. And then, which is more important, the sanctity of your relationship with God, or justice for abuse survivors. And specifically, what I mean here is, should religious clergy be legally required to report confessions of sexual abuse? Or because other professions like therapists, teachers, and physicians legally have to pass any information about alleged child sexual abuse to the authorities in some states, breaking an otherwise confidential relationship. But, fun fact, not fun fact, in 33 states, clergy are exempt from any such requirement if they find that info to be privileged. The argument there being that confession is supposed to be just between you, your clergy member, and God, and letting the state intervene in that relationship would disrupt its sacred privacy. But opponents of the exemption disagree, pointing out how many cases of abuse have gone under the radar because authorities were kept out of the loop, with one of those opponents being Angela Romero, the Democratic state senator from Utah who introduced a bill 2 years ago called HB 90, which sought to close the clergy loophole. But obviously it wasn't passed, so what happened? Well, it got stuck in the House. Now an investigation by the Associated Press sheds light on why, with it finding that the religious establishment in Utah launched an organized campaign against the bill, with the Catholic Diocese alone collecting 9,000 signed, pre-made letters from parishioners from dozens of churches and sending those to Romero. As well as, it's Utah, the Mormon Church, whose members make up the majority of the state legislature, applying pressure to kill the proposed law. But also, a key thing to know here, this is just one example, because according to the AP, lawmakers across the country have introduced more than 130 bills trying to create or amend child sex abuse reporting laws over the past 2 decades. Every single one either targeting the loophole but failing to close it, or amending the mandatory reporting statute without touching the clergy loophole. And as the AP explains, the Roman Catholic Church has used its well-funded lobbying infrastructure and deep influence among lawmakers in some states to protect
You are our
privilege.
sunshine,
Adding
Frank.
there,
All of
influential
us.
members
All
of the
of
Mormon
ours.
Church and Jehovah's Witnesses have also worked in state houses and courts to preserve it in areas where the membership is high. side, with the clergy leading the opposition in some cases being the same people later discovered to be predators, like a Catholic cardinal in Maryland who led the campaign there and was actually defrocked later for child sexual abuse. And I mean, just last month, another investigation revealed that a Mormon bishop in Arizona, under the direction of church leaders, failed to report a church member who confessed to sexually abusing his 5-year-old daughter, with Republican state lawmaker Merrill Nelson reportedly advising that bishop not to report it, effectively letting the father abuse 3 of his children for years. Yet after that case, 3 proposed bills that would have closed the clergy loophole were snuffed out by key Mormon legislators. So now, back in Utah, Romero is teaming up with a Republican to reintroduce HB 90 next year, but if the entire history of these efforts is any indicator, I don't have a lot of faith that it'll pass. And if there's a final thing that I can say here that can stand out to you, and especially to those on the religious right who go, yeah, I support this. It's times like these and stories like this that make me hope that you're right, that a God does exist, because if that is the case, you're not going to go where you think you're
Thanks
going.
for the 20
Whatever
crunches.
excuses you make doesn't change.
I'll add it to my
the fact
ab
that you are
workout after
protecting
these
predators
sets.
over their prey. And then, have you seen this 15-year-old girl? Well, if you live in Southern California, you very likely saw her yesterday because her face was blasted across the area through an Amber Alert. Her name's Savannah, and on Monday, her father, Anthony Graziano, shot and killed his estranged wife, then going on the run from authorities, and he took Savannah with him. So you see, the police treat this not only as an alleged murder case, but also an ongoing kidnapping, that the stakes are high here. They could still save Savannah. And for a day, Anthony was actually able to stay away from the cops, but yesterday, somebody spotted his white Nissan pickup truck and alerted them. So you had deputies arriving on the scene, and then Anthony, who was still armed at that time, putting several rounds through a patrol car's windshield. From there, we see a high-speed pursuit taking both Anthony and the cops through multiple highways and cities. Reportedly, the entire time, shots are being fired back at the police, the bullets at one point even disabling a cop. Unit there, forcing staff how things move from here. YouTube's been snatching up more and more talent. While YouTube's not perfect, it seems like more and more people are pissed off at Twitch every day. And currently,
trust in leadership, not to mention a voting record that is fully anti-American, has voted against every initiative that would deliver for Arizona families and would deliver for the American people. The American Rescue Act, the bipartisan infrastructure package, protecting our troops, marriage equality, the gun safety bill, inflation reduction. I mean, I can just keep going on and on and on. And then he backs up his actions with his words. He's on record saying that climate change is folklore, a woman does not need the right to choose, and that the people of January 6th is kind-hearted, well-intentioned people. And what this means is, right, you have somebody who voted to overturn the election, does not believe in the principles that uniquely makes America America, and you have someone that is actively working against the will of the American people.
But also with Hodges said, I really just want to know the two things. Why not him, but why you? And also asking him how he would respond to the criticism that he isn't qualified because he's so young and he hasn't held public office.
My story is that of the American people. It's not much different. And I'm a business executive. I get to work with mission-driven organizations every single day that delivers for the communities in which they operate in. I'm a unifier. I bring people together. And then I'm a Head Start executive as well. I'm the president of the longest-running Head Start, the Booker T. Washington Child Development Center. We are serving families across the Phoenix metro area, delivering service and doing everything that we possibly can to help folks get ahead.
I was also interested to know what actually mattered to the people in this district, because when we talk about the elections, we usually think about everything on a national level. Because while a lot of the national issues are local issues, You are representing the specific group. You're supposed to be doing the best for them.
I'm not going to Washington to be a federal official. I'm not. I'm not that guy. I'm going to Washington to be a local official that has access to federal resources and that will act in the interest of my community at the federal level. And right now, when you talk about the number one, number two, number three issues, Arizona's a hurting. The economy's hitting us hard here. And we need leaders that are going to provide realistic solutions that's going to attract innovative economic solutions, inspire economic innovation, so that we can cultivate homegrown individuals, provide those high-wage jobs. But in addition to that, folks need to see, everyday impact as well. We need to lower costs for families. We look at right now, we can lower the cost of prescription drugs. Stryker has voted no to cap insulin at $35 a bottle. In addition to that, they're afraid that their freedoms are under attack. You look at all of the attacks right now on democracy. We need to strengthen, you look at the HR 1 for the People Act and John Lewis Voting Rights Act. When we strengthen the fundamentals of our democracy, ensure that we're expanding access to the ballot box, we're going to have more participation, which is going to increase, representation here in the United States Congress, and not to mention reproductive freedoms. I'm going to be someone in the United States Congress that's going to fight every single day to ensure that anybody has the right to choose what they so want to with their bodies. And that includes the freedom to get an abortion.
But also with all that, we can't lose sight of the fact that, yes, this is still something that affects everybody. But this isn't a race that just affects District 1. This could very well decide the future of this country.
Right now, we have people that are roaming the halls of Congress that are actively working to tear down what we all collectively have worked so hard to protect and preserve. We need to protect the future of our democracy in order to have a republic to live in, to pass on to our kids and our grandkids. And that starts by weeding out the bad apples. David Schweikert is one of them. I'm working to take care of this race so that we can have people that are willing to unite and want to cross lines. I'm Barack Obama Democrat. I consider myself McCain Obama. I'm an Arizona, right? I'm someone that's right in the middle here. That's going to be able to work with folks on both sides of the aisle, understands perspectives, and are willing to find real solutions.
Is there a last thing that you'd like to leave me and my audience with, especially since just even one vote from the people that are watching could change the race if I want to make this an all-important interview?
When you think about everything that is happening right now in the halls of Congress, right? You look at the laws that are being passed, and you look at the folks that are fighting against good initiatives for the American people. I'm going to close out with this. If you want to change the laws, you have to change the lawmakers. And so we need people that are going to be willing to, like I said, roll up their sleeves, get down and do the work to deliver for every American and to deliver for every Arizonan. And I'm going to be that person to do so.
And then I want to take a second to thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Brilliant, making today's show possible. And Brilliant takes subjects like math, science, computer science, those areas of life that people fear most, and convert them into awesome experiences of guided discovery. With thousands of lessons and exclusive new content added monthly, Brilliant offers courses for all levels, from mathematical fundamentals to quantitative finance, and so much more. And it's suited for ages 10 to 110. And for those out of school, I realize this, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And Brilliant is great for students, professionals, and really anyone who just wants to get better at things. It's important to remain sharp at any age of life, and Brilliant makes it fun and easy. What I really love about Brilliant is the interactive lessons. It's just a much more fun way of learning as you apply math and science and daily problem solving, or challenge yourself to level up in areas that benefit your growth in your current position, or just life itself. Basically, I think we all need to work our brains no matter what age or stage in life. So don't miss out on this great offer. Go to brilliant.org/thebrink to sign up for free. The first 200 of you beautiful bastards get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. And then, what do you like? That is an important question in life for yourself, for those around you, or companies trying to drain you of every single dollar you earn. That's why this recent Axios poll that surveyed adults about their favorite corporate brands was so interesting, where they broke down the data to find the favorite brands of different age groups, and they found things like big surprise Gen Z adults heavily favor tech and social media brands. When it comes to the newer favorites like Discord, Snapchat, TikTok, and Shein, the shopping app. And notably here, we saw some pretty big gaps in what Gen Z is consuming compared to the whole of US adults. So Gen Z's big four being YouTube, Google, Netflix, and Amazon, and YouTube being actually their most liked brand. But the real key here to why Axios looked at what Gen Z was consuming is because, as they know, people ages 18 to 25 have increasing societal clout and spending power, but their tastes don't always conform to those of their elders. It brings to mind this moment of Mr. Beast on the Flagrant podcast where he's talking about where companies are spending ad dollars.
It's weird how slow it is. They still would rather buy a Orange Bowl commercial than a YouTube video. And it's like, how many people are even watching this football game? I don't probably like 4 or 5 million, but
Is it?
probably, yeah.
It's like every old person home, they just leave the TV on
That's
the TV.
well, and they're opening up TikTok and commercials. I agree. Like, you know, it's low. That's what I'm saying.
Cheers
Not
for the follow
commercials
slide
on
check.
TV,
How you
they're
going
like,
today?
Okay, go ahead and pick up your phone right now. Go open TikTok. We'll see you in 2 minutes. We're gonna bore the shit out of you. You know, but you know, and on you.
If you can manage, clean diet all the way. Nothing better than getting all your nutrients naturally. In saying that, nothing wrong with protein shakes either. Example for a person like me, I need to be eating more, and I unfortunately cannot fit enough meals throughout the day to meet my caloric and protein intake. So remember, protein shakes and all that stuff, they're called supplements. It's meant to supplement your life, not take over. So make sure you have a proper clean diet first, and then you fill in the gaps of where your nutrition is. So I guess that's my answer for you right there. I recommend having a clean diet first, then using the protein shakes to meet your nutritional needs. So, you know, make sure to calculate that properly and whatnot. Bring your calculators online. Yeah, good question. Ask me anything you like. Also, thanks for the follow again. Glad to hear you started working out again as well. Good work on jumping back on that horse. It ain't easy. The fact that you've gone up there and you've made that decision is you're ahead of everyone else that hasn't. So, think about it that way, I guess. Well, that's how I think about it.
YouTube, that's what you get. So it's like,
What kind of
it's
training do you do,
eyeballs,
slide
and
check?
It's like the person you're there watching.
Even with Mr. Beast being one of the most successful
And
people
what's your
online,
goal?
you have to just take him at his word. Market analysts also agree with it. With, for example, one saying, brands can't just exist as brands anymore. They have to have an interface, something for audiences to actually engage with. Those companies need to be more approachable and more personable because audiences are growing very used to being able to interact with the creators that they like. You know, we have seen more and more old school companies, staples, out there engaging in new advertising strategies. McDonald's, I think, is a fantastic example of that. They've that insanely viral Travis Scott meal a couple years back there. There was even then Travis Scott launching a clothing line around it. McDonald's also working with the likes of BTS, and now they have an adult Happy Meal to bank on nostalgia. Also, as we've talked about before, massive toy companies are moving their advertising from traditional outlets to YouTube and TikTok. And some, it's like not even thought of as a split, even going as
'Cause,
far
yeah,
as
depending what your
cut out
goals are,
television altogether. With the
doesn't
president
really
and
change
CEO
about
of
protein
Canal
shakes or
Boy
clean
saying
diet,
last
but
year, my budget for TV this
sort of
year
gives you a
is zero.
direction on
Last
how you
year I
wanna
only used influencers,
work out
and
and
this
eat.
year only influencers, and I don't see myself going back. And according to an influencer marketing agency, around $9.7 billion was spent on influencer marketing in 2020, and more than $15 billion is expected to be spent in 2022. And they go on to say, with more social media platforms scaling and setting the cultural agenda, such as TikTok, creators are emerging as the key gateway between consumers and brands. Which is also why I think, in addition to creators and these massive companies having partnerships, we're going to see more and more creators having their own massive companies. Personally, I welcome it. I get to support creators I like. It does feel more engaging. I mean, my son and I, one of our favorite things is Mark Rober's Crunch Labs. And I think, if anything, and this might just be like in these transitionary years, the only thing that might make a Rober need a larger company is the ability to put out as much as he wants. Like, I got in on Crunch Labs day one. They're currently sold out. You have to join a fucking wait list in hopes that you can start getting boxes.
Alright,
That
Sleepy,
is
you're gonna do your 20 crunches now.
Also, since I'm just shouting people
Thank you for
out,
spending
if
your
you want a
points.
good knife, get the Babish knife. He has a whole bunch of cookware. It's fantastic. He's not even my friend. I mean, we were friendly. My experience is shit's just been good. And then, at the risk of sounding ageist, I pose the question, should there be an age limit if you want to be a politician? That's been a long-standing question when talking about Congress or even the White House, and one that has kind of been rekindled thanks to this clip going viral of President Biden publicly asking if a congresswoman who died last month was present at a current White House event. The lawmaker in question was Republican Representative Jackie Walorski, who had helped convene and organize a White House conference on food, nutrition, and health that Biden was speaking at. In fact, Biden had even acknowledged her work on the conference in an official White House statement following her death last month, which read, "Jill and I are shocked and saddened by the death of Congresswoman Jackie Walorski of Indiana, along with 2 members of her staff in a car accident today in Indiana. Continuing, I appreciated her partnership as we plan for a historic White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health this fall that will be marked by her deep care for the needs of rural America." But in his remarks yesterday, thanking the group of bipartisan lawmakers who helped make this event happen, we saw this.
I want to thank all of you here, including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Brown, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I really appreciate it. She has to be here.
Now, Biden, for his part, did not correct the mistake during the speech, but in a press conference later, the White House press secretary repeatedly said that the congresswoman was top of mind for Biden because he was championing the lawmakers who had worked on the conference, as well as because he's set to meet with her family on Friday when he's scheduled to sign a bill in her honor. Though, to be honest, the fact that he's supposed to sign a bill in her honor days when he made those remarks makes it kind of look worse. So with all this, you have a lot of people and media outlets using this as evidence that Biden, who is 79, does not have the mental capacity to serve as president, with many saying the president
Sleepy,
is,
there are your 20
yeah,
crunches.
Surprisingly, most of those
Thank you very
remarks
much.
came from the right, which has regularly questioned his mental acuity. I think this is an issue that goes beyond left
No, I
and
guess
right.
start
It
the
goes
ad work
beyond
account
Biden and
now.
touches on concerns about America's most important leaders.
I'm gonna
being
skip
old,
doing with the
because
yoga
Biden
ball.
is the oldest president in
I noticed that my
history.
lower back was hurting a little bit when I
He
used those
also
crunches.
held that title
I
at
thought it
the
increased the range of motion of where I was doing my crunches, but
heavily questioned as well. But also,
I think
very
it's gonna
important, it goes beyond the presidency.
stuff me in the
current
long
session
run.
of Congress is the oldest on average of any Congress in recent history. And this is a bipartisan
Cheers,
problem.
Sleepy, you're
Averages
welcome.
are fair.
No, thank you for the crunches, making sure that I work out till failure, which is what I hate doing, but you know, is what it is. Reason why I'm not using for the yoga for crunches is because, just like crunches, you want to keep your back flat on the floor. You want to keep your back flat in general in anything that you do, essentially. So, most people, when they're doing crunches, their back is sort of slightly arched back like this. I'm not sure if you guys can see that there. Maybe if I turn it that way. Anyway, but essentially what you want to do is rotate your hips so that it flattens out your lower back, and the flat of your back is on the mat. And in anything that you do, deadlifts, squats, push-ups, back should always be flat. The more curved it is, the more you're putting your lower back in compromise, which is essentially what's been happening with the yoga ball. I'd say if you just had good controlled movement, you can probably get away with it, even with the support of a yoga ball. But just arching like this, already my back is arched, even though I have that support. The amount of reps that I do, it sort of catches up to me eventually. I felt a twinge last week. Not a problem, figured it out early straight away, but already, just doing ab workouts on that mat, I'm doing it feels more already, even though I did weighted ab crunches on that yoga ball. So, you know, the more you know, that's the fitness journey for you. Keep in the useful and throw out the useless.
Fairly similar when it comes to Republicans and Democrats. There's also a higher percentage of people who are older than the median age, right? Nearly 1 out of every 4 members are over the age of 70. And very importantly, some of the people in the highest
So you're
leadership
making sure the
positions
flat of
are
your
among
back,
the
if you
oldest
can bring
members.
your hand
Nancy
underneath
Pelosi is the oldest ever
your
House
back,
Speaker
it means
at
it's not flat.
82 years old. The
So
third
you want to
person in
curl
line
your
for the
bottom
presidency
underneath
is the
you,
same
not
age. And
backwards,
Senate
but
Minority Leader
underneath
Mitch
you
McConnell
that
is
way.
257 years old, which is why it's unsurprising that a recent Insider Morning Consult poll found that 3 in 4
There's a
Americans
crunch.
support an
Really,
age
all you gotta do
limit
is
for
just,
Congress.
once you
And
put your
more
shoulder
than
blades
40% say that they view
come off
the
the
ages
floor,
of political leaders as a
you've done a
meaningless
crunch.
problem. And it makes sense.
A
Like I
sit-up
said,
is when you
at
go
the risk
all the
of
way up,
sounding ageist, there
but
are tons of other industries that have age
that-
caps.
that's-
Airline pilots,
that has
military.
problems in
If you're
itself.
too old to fly a plane, you're probably
Where,
too old to be making laws that are
guess I
going
should
to
explain.
impact the entire
You do a
country,
crunch,
especially
if
a
you were doing
country
your
that
abs,
isn't at all
you do a sit-up,
demographically
you do most of your
represented
abs,
by age in Congress.
but then you got these hip
With that,
flexors
of
as
course,
well that are
imposing
also
age limits on
activating.
Congress or the presidency would
So
only
unless you
serve
got
to require
control
changes to the Constitution. And
to
unfortunately, those changes are
only
happening
work your
against
abs
the
while
same ancient
doing-
ones who currently
without
refuse
using
to
hip
let power
flexors,
slip
then yeah,
from
by all
that
means,
critic
but
grip. And so with
I
that,
don't
that's
think
a
I can
story
do
you can
that.
obviously
Turn it
tell
on
where I
somehow.
stand, but I want to pass the question off to you.
You
What are your thoughts here? Do you think
get
there
a
should be
few
age
problems when you
limits for
overwork your hip
Congress and the
flexors.
presidency? And if so, what should that limit be?
And like,
then
it's a
World
false sense
War
of
III.
achievement just
Is
because
it
you do
about to
sit-ups.
happen? Will the video
Right.
games about it afterwards be
You might not have
cool?
strong
Those are
abs,
just
you might
two
just have
questions
strong
in the
hip
air following
flexors.
Putin's government ramping up its nuclear rhetoric after annexing 4 more regions of Ukraine after a sham referendum and what looks to be sabotage on the Nord Stream pipeline. So starting with the pipeline, it connects Russian gas to places like Germany through the Baltic Sea and was heavily damaged in multiple spots a few days ago, pouring tons of natural gas into the ocean. While blame has gone around, people pointing fingers, there is no doubt that it was deliberately damaged. It is not officially known who damaged the pipeline, but European countries are already hinting that they think that it was Russia's attempt to attack. their
Another
energy
advice is when you do crunches, always
Denmark's
put the
defense
ceiling.
minister saying that Russia has a significant military presence
Reason being
in the
is you don't want to be
Baltic region,
flexing
and
your
we
neck
expect them to continue their
while you're
saber
working
rattle.
out
Also,
in
NATO's
anything.
general secretary warning against future attacks
So
in
by looking at
Tunisia.
the
Any
ceiling,
deliberate attack against allies
my
and
neck is
critical
always
infrastructure
straight
would be
and
met
not
with a
crunching
united and
forward.
determined response.
People
However,
mistake
Russia
doing
has
this
denied
as
World
adding
War
more
III and
effort.
described such
Yeah, you can
behavior
push
as
one or two out,
stupid, with a
but then
spokesperson saying
compromising
he
to
had
the
no
neck at the
interest
same
in damaging
time.
the pipeline
So,
due to how
not worth
valuable
it.
the natural gas was. And adding that this area is the Baltic Sea. There were many more aircraft, ships, or other marine vehicles from NATO countries there. And arguing that these reports of Russia's involvement are absolutely ridiculous and biased. But they did say they had a likely culprit in mind. That's right, we did it. It was America all along. With a spokesperson's supposed evidence for this being an offhand comment that Biden made back in February that there would, quote, be no longer a Nord Stream 2 pipeline if Russia invaded Ukraine. But with that, American officials scoffed at the theory and called it preposterous. So you had all that, and obviously we need to care about what develops there. But we should also move on to how Russia is using sham referendums in Ukraine to justify annexing 4 more regions of the country and escalating escalating the chance of nuclear war. And so earlier this week, when Russian authorities in both the breakaway regions of Ukraine, alongside other occupied territories, held referendums on joining Russia, would you believe it? Just landslides. 87 and 99% of the people saying they wanted to join Russia, which, by the way, at least make it believable. I don't know 90% of people that agree on anything. But that aside, we didn't have to wait long to see how fast Putin would move here. There now being expectations that Putin's going to give a speech tomorrow to formally annex them, and this territory would amount to 15% of Ukraine's territory. Now, with all this, Ukraine has called these referendums illegal, with its foreign ministry saying that forcing people in these territories to fill out some papers at the barrel of a gun is yet another Russian crime in the course of its aggression against Ukraine. With President Zelensky saying in a statement that the votes are worthless and do not change reality. Territorial integrity of Ukraine
and
will
shoulder
be
blades
restored,
off the floor.
Our reaction to recognition of the
crunch.
results by Russia will be very hard.
Simple.
And internationally, all of this has been condemned as illegal, with some places like Finland using
Little
it as a nail in
minute
the
things would be
coffin to
like, I
finally
guess,
ban
focusing
Russians
on
with
the
tourist
contraction,
visas, which could have a
making
huge
sure you're
impact for
using-
a number of reasons,
making
including
full
many
use of
Russians
the
are
rep
actually
itself,
using them to
because some people
escape the
just
draft
go
right
through
now.
the
Also,
motions,
what's especially worrying about
and
these
then drop
moves is welcome back. Buckle up. Make sure you hit that like button, otherwise we'll punch you in the throat, and let's just jump into it. You fake face having son of a bitch. That incredibly weird sentence is actually at the core of 3 different stories today. The first being last week, you might have seen the news that Bruce Willis sold the rights to his likeness to the deepfake company Deepcake. This after he had previously agreed for his face to be used in just a single commercial the company had made last year. And many were like, yeah, this new deal allowing Deepcake to seemingly use Bruce Willis whenever they want to from now on seems to make sense. We've seen similar deals recently, like James Earl Jones giving the okay for his voice archives to be used to AI generate the voice of Darth Vader in the Star Wars franchise. But in the case of Bruce, I'm talking about this today because it turns out it's not true. Fake news, with both parties publicly denying it. And so if you have a friend telling the story that you now know to be not true, dunk on them so hard that they feel so much shame they start reading past headlines and researching a little further. But to bring us to story number 2, there are still controversies around deepfakes, which isn't surprising because 99% of the time we see a deepfake, it's not with the original person's approval. With YouTube creator, author, and do everything person Hank Green tweeting about deepfakes on YouTube, pointing out that there is a channel out there that parodies Mark Rober and Nile Red using AI generated generated voices and deepfake technology to put them in comedic situations. Hank's first point is there are ways people are going to do this much worse, more mean-spirited and more exploitative. And two, that the channel in question recently got a sponsorship from Mark Rober's main competitor. Like we talked about last week, Mark Rober has Crunch Labs, a fantastic thing, especially if you have kids. And so I think rightly there is a concern that you have people out there using his image with thumbnails that obviously bring in his audience. And not only are they making money, but they're doing so by promoting someone that competes with Mark. But then finally with story number 3, we got the answer to what happens when you become massively famous by using a fake face and then you show your real
I
face.
guess
One of the
a better way
biggest
to do
creators in
lower
the
ads is
world,
do leg
Minecraft
raises.
YouTuber Dream, doing
Again,
a facial
though,
deal over the
you
weekend
don't need
after
to
a
get to
very
about 45
interesting
degrees,
social
maybe a
media
little
blitz.
bit more.
From many other
But
top
anything more than
creators in
this,
the space
you
is
start
face,
turning on
them
those hip
posting
flexors, just remember
reactions
that.
and just generating so much attention
Everyone
until he finally reveals it
develops
in
at
a
a
live
different
stream
rate,
to
so,
1.4 million
some can do
people
it better than others.
concurrently. And as
Just
of
want low
recording
abs.
this video, it's only been 16
it.
hours and it has
The same rules
19
as
million
twice
views.
before.
Well, generally, this
Lower
was a very
back,
positive
flat on the
thing,
mat.
something that garnered a lot of attention
Slow
with the
controlled
negativity.
movements
Saw a number of
on the
reactions and viral posts
polycentric
making fun of
and
how
then
he looked.
eccentric
Things like
face.
he's ugly was trending. You also had people looking at his face and saying whether it looked gay or not. Their words, not mine. And my reaction
Hands
to
to
this.
the
Maybe
side,
I'm gonna sound crazy here, but does
front of
everyone
you.
know you don't have to tweet every thought
Personally,
that
for
you
me, just
have in
whatever
your
makes me
dumb
work
fucking
harder, I
head?
guess.
I understand. I'm not gonna say things like, does everyone know it's free to be nice? It's also free to be mean. And I'll be ruthlessly mean for the right reasons, but why be so fucking negative and mean about something so inconsequential? Like maybe it's just because I don't follow him. I'm not like a fan in that way, but he just looks like a guy. Because he doesn't match the image in your head that you made, all of a sudden you gotta be fucking cruel. But also I feel like I had to remind myself before I got too worked up, like when you're dealing with these kind of numbers, right? 19, actually, as I was recording, it's now 20 million people have seen that video, and countless others on social media platforms are going to see it in other ways. When you're dealing with those kind of numbers, even when there's only a small percentage of assholes, that's a lot of assholes. Like, even if only 1% of the people that saw this were being assholes, and we've all been on the internet, we know the numbers of not just 1%, that would be 200,000 people. Which I guess to say, because there's so much attention on the people roasting him on Twitter, that something can be much smaller even though it feels much bigger. But also, fuck those people. But hey, that's my opinion. I love yo faces, and you let me know yours. And then, if you were confused by the statement, it's okay to be mean if you're mean to the right people, I'm talking about guys like this. This D-bag is Apex Legends streamer Official Glaucoma, and he's in the news because he was berating his wife on Twitch again, apparently. This is my first time learning about him. Apparently, this is not his first run-through. Let's look at the clip in question.
What were you doing outside? Were you looting? Zuka, it doesn't take that long, so you were looting! But there's enemies inside that they were fighting! Why are you allowing them to loot? You keep doing
Shouldn't laugh at
this shit
Brain
over and
Papa.
over!
The guy's online,
You
come
keep
on,
just
like-
allowing people to loot and get shit off!
Like, you're online.
Like, I don't get it!
Imagine if he wasn't online. Like, that's the argument, is it? Like, what does he do when he's not on camera?
But you're in there, like, taking your time. Like, did you forget that they were fighting another enemy? Luca, who were they fighting then? Luca, who were they fighting? Luca, why are you sitting there thinking that? No, Suka, why? Suka, no. Right there.
Tell me you have a tiny dick without telling me you have a tiny dick. Also, little fun thing with this story, when his chat actually called him out.
I've got
in the
mates
live
who are
stream how
serious
he
to
treated
gaming
his
like
wife,
that.
He had a very interesting comeback.
I'm not treating my significant other like that. I treat my wife amazing. Thank you very much. All right? You want to know more about my wife and the country she's from and how she knows how women are actually treated compared to, the free worlds of, the Western
It doesn't give you a
society?
free pass
Why
to
don't
act
go
like the
over
way
to
you
her
do,
channel
buddy.
and fucking ask her.
Yeah, you fucking idiots. You think I'm a bad guy because I screamed at my wife for a while? There are women in other parts of the world that, they get attacked for, wearing the wrong clothes. That is apparently where the bar is. How has anyone ever let you inside of them? A wife who, by the way, he's done this to before. There was an article at the end of May this year. One of the worst parts of that article reading, the incident takes an even darker turn after the streamer tells chat that his wife picks at her knuckles until she bleeds due to stress, seemingly oblivious to the possibility that his behavior could be contributing to that. But to me, that's not the darkest part because the article continues. The Twitter account of the woman in the video is filled with a series of self-blaming tweets stating things like, "It's all my fault, and I have shown so much ego and attitude. How does this monster have an audience? Yeah, this is just starting to gain traction as I was filming today. We'll see what happens from here, but looking at this, especially as a child who witnessed domestic violence, if this is what he does when he knows a fucking camera's on, I don't know what he's doing when it's on. And then, a 14-year-old was denied life-saving medication due to Arizona's abortion ban. Right, so last week, a judge in Arizona ruled that an abortion law that is literally from 1864 can take effect in the state, officially banning almost all abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy, with some exceptions that if the person's life is in danger, but not in the case of rape or incest. And then, according to reports, you have this girl, whose name is Emma Thompson. She has debilitating rheumatoid arthritis and osteoporosis, which has kept her in and out of the hospital for most of her life. For years, Emma has been taking a drug called methotrexate, or MTX, to make the disease more manageable, with her mother telling local outlets that the drug has had an incredible impact on her daughter's life, saying it's her first year and she's in high school and it feels like a dream. She's not in a wheelchair, she has a social life and friends for the first time, and a life all young people should have. But the thing with MTX is that in higher doses, it's used to end ectopic pregnancies, though incredibly notable here. The child's physician, Dr. Deborah Jane Powers, said in a tweet the dose is so low it would take months to collect enough for the purpose of an abortion. Also telling reporters that while older women in Arizona have had delays in getting medication since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, this was her first pediatric patient who was denied the essential medication by a pharmacist in Adding. The pharmacist said the patient is 14, so we feel she was worried that the patient could be pregnant and using methotrexate for abortion purposes. With Walgreens, the pharmacy that denied the medication, also making a statement saying that the company's focus is meeting the needs of patients, but the trigger laws in various states require additional steps for dispensing certain prescriptions. You've got a lot of confusion, a lot of fear, but there is a little bit of good news, if we want to call it that, even though this situation shouldn't be happening. The good news is that Powers said that she fought for the patient and was eventually able to secure a refill for this month, and has taken other steps, telling one outlet, "We've filed complaints with the State Board of Pharmacy." And adding, "We will notify the American College of Rheumatology. We will write the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Congress, and the Senate." But still, and she's justified here, she's worried about the future and the impact Arizona's abortion law will have on access to essential care. And unfortunately, it's very likely we're going to just see more and more of this. And then, I want to take a second to thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Squarespace. I've been partnering with Squarespace for years now, and I have to say that if you're getting your business off the ground, or creating a place to share your homemade goods, new favorite hobby, current obsession, or even a personal blog, get all those thoughts out of your head, no matter what you're doing, Squarespace is there to help. And it's all so easy. There's nothing to install, patch, or upgrade ever. And creating a beautiful website with Squarespace's all-in-one platform has never been so simple. It's extremely intuitive and easy to use. Plus, with their mobile-optimized websites, your content automatically adjusts so it looks great on any device. And with Squarespace, you also get access to their marketing tools and analytics, plus their award-winning customer care team via email or live chat 24/7. So if you want to check it out, see why others love it, see if it's perfect for you, go ahead and start your free trial today over at squarespace.com/Phil. When you realize you love it, make sure you enter an offer code Phil to get 10% off your first purchase. And then 125 people are now dead because of this soccer match that happened over the weekend. It took place Saturday night in Indonesia. Thousands of people pack into the stadium to watch two teams play. The home team loses 3-2. You see fans then pour onto the field, notably most of them, if not all, supporting the home team, since the organizers banned the other team's fans from attending in an effort to prevent brawls. But that decision apparently backfires, because instead you just have an entire stadium full of exclusively one team's fans, and they're furious at their side for losing. So some reportedly throw bottles and other objects at the players and football officials, with at least 5 cop cars being toppled and set ablaze outside the stadium, which then led to the riot police, who were there to begin hitting people with shields and batons, according to eyewitnesses, then firing tear gas directly into the crowd and even into the stands, causing absolute mayhem. Pure chaos and confusion as hordes of people, many of them now blinded by the tear gas, are desperately going for the exit, with the stampede quickly killing 34 people either by trampling or suffocation, including 2 police officers and possibly some children. But those were just the immediate numbers, with many brutally hurt and rushed to nearby hospitals, and as patients passed away, that number reached at least 125 people, and as many as 300 others sustaining non-fatal injuries. It's a horrible, horrible tragedy, and many are now asking, who's to blame? With many right now pointing their finger at the police, because as some human rights groups have pointed out, tear gas is actually prohibited by FIFA. Plus, you're supposed to deploy it to put distance between you and the crowd and disperse them in an intended direction, not just indiscriminately fired into a packed, secure location like a football stadium. But then you also have people pointing fingers at the event organizers, who printed around 42,000 tickets for a stadium that can only seat 38,000 You've also got East Java's police chief defending the use of tear gas, saying, "We had already done a preventative action before finally firing the tear gas as fans began to attack the police, acting anarchically and burning vehicles." Finally, you have the government saying that they're going to establish a commission to investigate the incident and promising to identify the officers at fault within days. The chief security minister also adding that the cops suspected of committing wrongful acts of violence would be criminally charged. But notably with all this, it is important to note that this is not new to Indonesia, right? Dozens of people have died from football-related violence since the 1990s, and back in 1964, a football referee in Peru made an unpopular call that caused a riot, killing at least 300. But of course, with all this, I'd love to know your thoughts, and I mean, I feel like I'm just still processing it. The immensity of this tragedy, it's mind-boggling. Also, what's mind-boggling is the stupidity of that crowd control response, and then you pair that with the insanity of sports fans. It's so much pointless death. And then Ukraine called on Russian troops to get a tattoo of their name so they can contact their relatives when they inevitably die. This comes as Russian forces are now having to call in airstrikes via social media. Also, Elon Musk introduced his peace plan today, and it very clearly shows that being the richest man doesn't also mean you are the smartest. In fact, Ukraine's ambassador to Germany told him to fuck off and that no Ukrainian will buy his Tesla crap. You also had President Zelensky asking, which Elon Musk do you like more? One who supports Ukraine or one who supports Russia? Also, Estonia called on the West to not give in to Russia's nuclear blackmail, saying you don't negotiate with terrorists. And Ukraine can't stop, won't stop, as they continue to liberate cities in the north and south as they inch closer to her son. Then, the new season of Supreme Court just dropped, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. This year, of course, there was a casting change. There's also the question of what's next for the plot. You know, they left us last season realizing, oh shit, precedent doesn't matter, and we have a bunch of liars on the court. Based off the previews, this could be an explosive season. But the first case the court will hear this term involves a major environmental dispute that will determine the scope of governmental authority under the Clean Water Act, which is a decision that could have a massive impact on U.S. water quality at a time when it feels like there's water crisis after water crisis due to climate change. And all this comes amid increasing concerns about federal inaction regarding climate change, especially after the Supreme Court significantly limited the government's power to act in this area in its last term. We've also got some of the most anticipated cases centering around race, this including a pair of cases that challenge affirmative action programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina.
Form is starting to compromise on
The High
itself.
Court has repeatedly upheld that race can be a factor in
Natural.
institutions to ensure a more equitable student body. Now, with the court's conservative supermajority, it could very well undo 40 years of precedent. SCOTUS is also set to hear a case that could significantly undermine key
Just
voting
gonna do your best to try to keep it as
protections
slow
for
and
minorities
controlled as
set
you
under the
can.
That case stemming from a lower court's opinion that invalidated Alabama's congressional map for violating a provision of the VRA that prohibits voting rules that discriminate on the basis of race. And that, after the state drew its maps, only one out of its 7 congressional districts was majority black, which sounds like, okay, whatever, until you learn that nearly 1 in every 3 voting age residents in the state are black. Also, on the note of gerrymandering in elections, the justices will hear a case that could have a profound impact on the very nature of American democracy. That matter centering around a decision by the North Carolina Supreme Court to strike down the Republican-drawn congressional
into
map
that
on the grounds that it amounted to an illegal gerrymander that violated the state's constitution. With the North Carolina GOP appealing that decision to the Supreme Court and arguing that the U.S. Constitution's election clause gives state legislatures almost total control over how federal elections are carried out in their state. And this is one of the biggest things to remember from this story. That is a theory called independent state legislature doctrine. As NPR explains, that argument in its most extreme form would mean that no state court and no state agency could interfere with the state legislature's version of election rules, regardless of the rules set down in the state constitution. In other words, if the Supreme Court sides with the North Carolina Republicans, they would essentially be giving state legislatures unchecked power on how voting maps are designed and elections are administrated, which is fucking terrifying. Well, there are a ton of other very, very significant cases, and I can't hit on them all. The last one that I want to touch on today could have huge implications for the LGBTQ plus community and civil rights more broadly. What we have with this case, you had a web designer in Colorado who refused to design websites for same-sex couples because she believes that it violates her right to religious freedom. That belief, however, goes against the Colorado non-discrimination law that bans businesses that provide public services from denying those services to customers based on sexual orientation or identity. So as a result, you have this woman arguing that the Colorado law violates her right to free speech under the First Amendment. And so if the High Court rules in her favor, yes, it massively undermines protections for the LGBTQ plus community in Colorado and like in other states with
Shudder's
similar laws.
dander
But
is
many
starting to
experts say
affect
that
me.
it could go far beyond that, with one explaining that if the court holds that this woman is correct in her claim
Like
that there
cat
is a free speech right
allergies.
to
No,
selectively
immunity
choose their customers based on the messages
has
she
run its
endorse,
course.
then under that law, people could deny services to people
So
of
now
color
we're taking
because that would be a
access to
message of endorsement. But the main thing with all this, we have a ton of high-stakes cases on the docket this term. This all coming at a time where the legitimacy of the court is being questioned in a historic way. And I mean, a new poll found that the Supreme Court's approval rating has sunk to a record low. But that is where that story and actually today's show ends. Thank you for watching, liking, being subscribed to my daily dives into the news. Also, if you want more news, I got you covered right here or here. But as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow. is not a guy if Ned Fulmer dies in the next year, just based off of the body language, I think there is a 79% chance Eugene did it. Holy shit.
Anyone else was watching Try Guys, or just me and my missus?
Boo all you want. While you do, I'll say, suck you beautiful bastard. Welcome back to the Philip Franco Show. Buckle up. Make sure you hit that like button, otherwise we'll punch you in the throat. Let's just jump into it. So the Try Guys just posted their first video after removing Ned Fulmer from the group. If you don't remember, it was a doozy last week. Massive scandal. Ned, turned out, was cheating on his wife with one of his employees, or as Ned put it, he was having a consensual workplace relationship. His description, of course, completely disregarding the massive difference in power an employer and employee might have, as well as just the legal fuckery he put his company and his partners into. Prior to this new video, the Try Guys released a statement saying Ned would no longer be moving forward with them. And since then, there's been no shortage of fan speculation and social media chatter, which I think is why they also released this video. Yes, they took their time, but also I think this is earlier than they were initially planning on releasing it, with the remaining members of the group, Eugene, Zach, and Keith, posting a video explaining what led to the removal of Ned, as well as their feelings.
On Labor Day weekend, multiple fans alerted us that they had seen Ned and an employee engaging in public romantic behavior. We reached out to check on that employee. Ned confirmed the reports and since confirmed that this had been going on for some time, which was obviously very shocking to us, and we just want you to know that we had no idea this was going on.
Then saying they started talking to employment and corporate lawyers as well as HR professionals to make sure that they handled this correctly.
This is something we took very seriously. We refused to sweep things under the rug. That is not who we are, and it's not what we stand for.
So they immediately removed Ned from work activities, had an HR rep conduct a review, and removed Ned from releases pending the results of that review. And very interestingly, that also meant removing a section from videos, digitally removing him from content, not just for future episodes, but stuff that's already been posted, and also not including him in merch drops and more.
Honestly, I want to give major props to our editing staff for how deftly they've handled that. There are several videos that we've deemed as fully unreleasable. You will never see them, and that is due to his involvement. And that's a decision that has cost us lots of money. We will not be able to recoup that money, but it's a decision we stand by proudly.
Also regarding the review, they said they couldn't share details, but they found Ned engaged in conduct unbecoming of the team. And on September 16th, they signed written consent to approve the removal of Ned as a manager and employee of the Try Guys company. And as far as why it took till now to release a statement, I think this very much makes sense. These are real people. There's a family involved. There's more people that are affected by this other than Ned. This is an interesting video to watch for a number of reasons, but also because it felt like each individual person, like they kind of exemplified the feelings they were going through.
We're losing a friend. We're losing someone we built the company with. We have countless memories with. We just made a TV show together. I'm sure many of you feel the same way.
They also warned fans to be careful when it comes to online speculation, to respect the families and employees impacted by this. And Eugene adding,
we also want to remind you that the internet has a tendency to be a lot harsher towards women than men. So please, we ask that you exercise kindness.
Well, I've seen people online kind of selectively taking this clip and saying, hey, what about the female employee's fiance? I think that's a valid thing to point out, but I also think that it kind of takes away from the main thing Eugene seems to be hitting on here, and that is there's a section of the internet that seemingly was blaming the woman involved here more than Ned. But the main thing here is that after they posted this video, the response to it was insanely positive. With that said, I'd love to know your thoughts on the update to this situation and specifically your reaction to that video. And then the LAPD is covering shit up again.
Better turn that off before I get more DMCA'd. Boy. Anyway. Alright. That's the workout for today. I might game later, either Cyberpunk or TFT. I'll see how I feel. I should be able to stream it now. Now I've got two monitors again because one of my monitors died. So I got a new one now. So easier to look left and right rather than looking at my TV screen over there, where I'll need a therapist soon if I kept doing that. Anyway, working out new hours of my workplace, but I will continue streaming because I do still need to work out no matter what happens. Next stream, my graduation is on Friday, so for my masters that I finished last year. Maybe sometime on the weekend. Oh no, I'll see. I haven't done my forearms in a while, or my grip strength, so maybe on the weekend. See what happens. Normally I do Friday mornings, but yeah, my graduation is in the morning, and then it's my brother-in-law's 50th birthday, so it'll most likely be that. There goes Cheddar, he's done. He really wants to get out of it now. I'll let him out after this. But anyway, yeah, that's it for today. I'm rambling on. Till next time. Any questions, please don't mind asking. I love answering whatever health questions you guys have. Exercise, life in general, doesn't matter what it is. Always here to help and whatnot. Just looking at my wombat staring at me in the background. Anyway, alright. Till next time. Have a good rest of the week if I don't see you.